Hello, and welcome to FACT's webinar, Marketing Threats and Opportunities in 2026, What Humane Livestock Producers Need to Know. I'm Samantha Gasson, with FACT's Humane Farming Program Director, and I will be moderating this session. Thank you for joining us. Before we dive right in, let me take a minute or two to do a few quick introductions. Food Animal Concerns Trust, or FACT, is a national nonprofit organization that works to ensure that all food-producing animals are raised in a humane and healthy manner. We accomplish this by supporting humane farmers through our Humane Farming Program, promoting policies that make foods from animals safe and healthy to eat through our Safe and Healthy Foods Program, and generally help consumers make informed food choices. Please visit our website at foodanimalconcerns.trust.org to learn more all about our farmer services. And as I've actually got Catherine normally helps me with these webinars, but today I have the amazing Aubrey with the Good Meat Project. So thank you, Aubrey, for stepping in. I appreciate it. At this time, I'm delighted to introduce Michele Thorne. Michele has served as Executive Director of the Good Meat Project since 2023, bringing more than 2 decades of experience strengthening resilience across the food value chain, from ranch to fork and from coast to coast. At the Good Meat Project, she focuses on the critical intersections of food, public health, economic resilience, and environmental stewardship. Michele began her career as a design entrepreneur before discovering her true calling, which I love this little bit, transforming our food systems. Her journey took her from the fast-paced culinary world of New York City, where she served as a raw food chef, private chef, and farm-to-table event producer, to the front lines of food system advocacy. And that sounds like that would make a good movie. I think it would be a really good movie. I'd watch it, especially if there was a love interest and maybe you throw in some cute animals. It'd be great. Michele also walks the talk as a small-scale livestock producer and permaculture farmer, raising pasture-raised, organically fed meats and crafting small-batch artisanal food products. She lives in Southern Oregon with her life partner and their 2 shepherds, Leo and Shasta, which I think they should be in the movie too. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, and we're really lucky to have you. And without further ado, I will turn the floor over to you, Michele. Take it away.
Thank you. That slide was my picture, but it had Anna Pessick's name on it.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You're
Anna,
not Anna
I
Pessick,
am
and you're
not
not with
Anna.
over the Anna with lust.
That's okay. I am
So sorry.
it's all right. It's all right. Let's get this party started. Hi everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited to be partnering with FACT as the Good Meat Project, but I'm Michele Thorne. I'm the executive director of the Good Meat Project. As you said, I'm not going to say anything more. That was a fabulous introduction. If you don't know who the Good Meat Project is, we're a national nonprofit and we create a lot of resources and education tools for producers like you to help bring your meat to market with transparency and really based on values, creating ethical pathways for the production and consumption of meat. And that is our mission statement there on the screen. All right, so I want to set some expectations in our session today because there are so many threats that are popping up this year, and they're really not predicted to slow anytime soon. Of course, anything can change. As we know, things are changing every day. But I want to just talk about the 3 things that we'll be covering kind of in this session today, and that's the threats, opportunities, and strategic recommendations. So, obviously, there are threats of AI, greenwashing, humane washing, and the ongoing erosion of consumer trust. With opportunities, there's opportunities to tell your authentic stories, build trust, and grow your community, even using AI responsibly as augmentation, not replacement for humans. And we're going to talk about some strategic recommendations and ways that you can strategically implement some of the suggestions in this webinar into your marketing efforts. So, marketing isn't just promotion anymore, it's trust engineering in a digital era where skepticism and lack thereof prevails. Consumer decision pathways are changing, they're turning AI-driven discovery. They are creating trust short form videos, whether they're credible or not. and it's causing a lot of scrutiny from consumers. So, as humane and values-based producers, you'll have to navigate these credibility traps and marketing opportunities, create these opportunities that are relevant to your practices and your products. So today we're going to dive into 2026's marketing threats and opportunities and the most important things you need to know to achieve success with your marketing initiatives, engaging with existing and new consumers, building your brand, and connecting your strategies to your bottom line. So let's jump right in. Here are some things to keep on your radar, and these are 4 things that we'll largely talk about in this webinar today. First one is price sensitivity. We can't read people's minds, but many consumers who are buying meat care about these things. So first and foremost, price sensitivity. In a depressed economy, it's hard to justify maybe spending upwards of $10 a pound for meat that looks the same as meat that is priced at $3 a pound elsewhere. So it's essential to communicate and communicate your value and your quality more clearly to justify premium pricing. And we're going to talk about that because consumers are asking, why would I spend $40 to buy this whole chicken? Maybe you've heard those concerns. Second is transparency expectations. With consumer trust at an all-time low, consumers are asking if they can trust the label. Can they trust the brand? Can they trust the messaging? So embracing transparency and traceability and being able to show proof of claims will play heavily into consumer decision making and expectations. They want to be able to trust where their meat is coming from. The third is direct to consumer relationships. It's challenging enough to build trusted relationships and retention with consumers, especially with all the chaos on the internet. And now AI is making its way into consumer relationships without detection. One way to ensure that you retain consumer trust is to open up authentic opportunities for feedback and gathering data directly from your customers. How do you know your consumers trust you? How do you know that? And lastly, we're going to talk about digital and AI integration. Technology is changing by the minute. It's changing the way people find and buy food. So responsible use, integration, and customized personalization of AI can increase capacity and improve automation, but there's definitely a method to the madness. How can you how can you integrate technology into your workflow and into your marketing and retain the important guardrails? And these are just some of the trends that we'll see this year, but let's move on to the marketing threats and opportunities and some strategies for implementation. So, like we talked about, threats are going to change throughout the year, but the first threat is directly tied to the trend of price sensitivity. With global supply chains facing a multitude of challenges, this will impact the price of meat, both conventional or industrially produced meat and specialty meat like the meat that you're selling into the market. Again, consumers will ask, should I pay $10, $12, or $18 a pound for this chicken, steak, or lamb? But when prices are going up, this drives the sensitivity of pricing. You know, the things that are behind your pricing, consumers don't necessarily know, like the price for feed, the price for fencing and fuel and infrastructure. And consumers don't always understand why a premium price is justified. They just don't know. They may not know what goes into that. And so sometimes explaining on your website or on a web page how the land stewardship that you're responsible for, how you're holding yourself accountable or your farm accountable, and what type of local connectivity you're doing in your community, how that will benefit the consumer. Oftentimes that means connecting the price of the product to what the consumer values. So the opportunity here is if you understand what consumers are comparing your product to rather than comparing, say, the true cost of production, you'll see the solution a little bit more clearly. Consumers don't understand bottlenecks in processing or why feed costs are rising or labor costs are going up, and they may not understand how that impacts what you're selling. But this is a messaging problem. You can try to communicate the value of your products, specifically the values and ethics behind your production practices, because without context, consumers experience price shock. So it's your job to more accurately, or really, it's really the job of your marketing to communicate your value proposition and product differentiation to consumers. For example, if a consumer gets stuck in the sticker shock, what can you actually do to help them overcome that objection? One suggestion is figure out their pain points. What problem are they trying to solve? What really matters to them? Is it the environment? Is it convenience? Is it animal welfare? Is it strictly a budgetary constraint? Sometimes the answer is right there in the answer to one of or more of those questions. And then lastly, the messaging strategy that you want to consider is radical specificity. When you're communicating in your messaging, name your farm, show your pasture, explain your processing journey with your butcher, and break down where each dollar goes. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So for example, if you're explaining your processing journey, you can say, we use XX processor located X miles away from our farm. Or break down where each dollar goes. You can say, here's exactly what you're paying for, but transparency reduces sticker shock. Threat number two, speaking of transparency, are transparency expectations. Like we discussed in the trends, consumer trust is at an all-time low, and consumers expect much higher levels of transparency, especially regarding welfare practices, production practices, where feed, breed, and confinement or lack thereof play a role, the origin of the product, and traceability. Labels, as we know, can be confusing to consumers and they're overwhelmed by that. But the way your label looks, what it says, and how you present the information on it plays a huge role in buying decisions. Now, what's interesting is 2026, there are laws that are going in place this year regarding labeling laws, so country of origin labeling laws. So that's good news for us, but that implementation will take several years. Um, Now, with irresponsible and manipulative use of AI when it comes to transparency, AI is infiltrating every industry on the planet right now. And the meat industry is no exception. It's in advertising, it's in processing, it's in online selling, you name it. Without the proper training and guardrails, the irresponsible and manipulative use of AI can make labels and transparency and finding your business even harder for consumers. But the opportunity is if you want to provide transparency for consumers, you'll have to prove your claims and back up your brand promises. Give consumers a way to validate what you tell them. So if you've ever seen the episode of Portlandia called Colin the Chicken, then you'll probably get a chuckle at this one. But this will be important in the next threat. So most consumers have been trained to trust what is at the grocery store. So what can you do to give consumers transparency that they need to make that purchasing decision with you? Again, if you know what what they want and what's really important to them, you can give them an inside perspective into that part of your process. So if you know that they're concerned about the environment, you can give them some insight into your grazing plan or your grazing practices and what that means to them and how that benefits them in a larger picture of the community. This is not to say that you have to let consumers see everything all at once, because no operation is perfect. But if consumers ask questions, do your best to provide honest answers. You don't have to be perfect. The messaging strategy here is to contrast without shaming. You can explain humane practices and slower growth timelines. We all know that when you're grazing animals and you're doing things naturally, not in factories, and you're not using certain things to grow your animals quickly, it takes a little bit longer of a time to do that. So explaining that can be really valuable. You can share what a good life looks like. You can do that in pictures and you can do that in words. And you can describe the relationship that you have with your processor. When you go to the processor, you can take a picture. You can maybe ask them a question that might be important to your consumers. But the point is to frame the consumer's purchase as a choice towards something better, not a guilt-driven critique against a choice they might already be making. Threat number 3. Here we go, talking about trust again. Trust erosion, it's a big one. Claims like regenerative, grass-fed, beyond organic, and pasture-raised have caused tremendous market confusion for consumers, and lack verification of those claims have driven consumer trust nearly down to zero. I'm sure we've all heard stories of maybe a certifying body that has been exposed, and maybe some of the claims aren't as true and factual as as consumers hope they would be. And that's it's not eroding, it's eroding consumer trust across the meat value chain. So over the years, many large brands have gotten caught obfuscating the truth behind closed doors. But the opportunity here is to begin building trust with consumers is to invite them into your space. Uh, Pull back the veil. Multiple USDA and university extension studies show consumers report a willingness to pay 10 to 30% more for local food products when trust and quality are clear. Um, Also, consistently showing transparency increases price tolerance. So, using authentic marketing, messaging, and experiences to back up your claim builds trust and makes consumers willing to pay a premium for a product when they can. So, if consumers don't trust you, or you haven't built that trust with consumers, um, what can you do to begin building this trust? One important way is to ask questions and then listen. You know, it takes time to build trust. So, asking the right questions and also listening to your customer concerns can be really valuable in this process. One messaging strategy here is highlighting tangible outcomes. To avoid vague climate claims, for example, you can say, our grazing plan improves soil organic matter by XX. And this would be something you could say based on factual data. And we're going to get into data in a second and why that's important. Or you can say, this farm keeps 200 acres from urban sprawl or from development. And being very specific feels real to consumers. So that's really the wrap up of the threats. I want to jump into things that you can do that are really tangible, but I want to pause for a moment if there are any questions on that section of the presentation before we jump into things that you can do. You can unmute yourself, or if there are any questions in the chat or in the Q&A.
So, Michele, I'm not seeing anything right now. And I realized I did not start the poll. So, we
Oh,
actually have a poll if you wouldn't mind answering it. um,
great.
we do have a question from Michele. I would like to market my meat lambs to the Muslim community, specifically to a mosque. Any ideas on how to approach this?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Um, I believe that cultural foodways are important, and consumers especially your target customers, really appreciate that. So I think approaching Muslim communities and mosques is really just like you would start any relationship. You want to find the person of contact at the mosque or in the Muslim community that you can start the conversation with, introduce yourself, introduce your brand, start communicating with them about the value that you can bring to the community. um, you know, that's really the first step, right? I don't know if you have any specific marketing materials, but a lot of times having something printed or something that you can leave behind that talks about your product, maybe it has a QR code that goes to your website. I don't really know what kind of marketing infrastructure you have already, Michael, but there are certainly ways that you can approach this, and maybe some of what we'll get into in the next section will actually help you uh, line up some of those things in your marketing. But that's a great question.
Dale and Christine, I'm not sure if it's Dale or Christine, is on their phone, so they apologize. But my question is, which social media do you use or should they
That
use?
that is a very nuanced question because Dale and Christine, you should only use social media, A, if you have the time to use social media. You don't have to build a business on social media. There are many businesses that are built offline. So there are online marketing tactics that you can use. Social media is just one of those tools that can help drive traffic to your product or your business or your online presence and brand. But it's not the only way. There are offline approaches to building businesses, small businesses that are equally as effective and sometimes even more effective because when you're talking to people in real time, you're making these connections. You have maybe printed handouts, or even if you decide to use a hybrid approach where you're using social media and you're using an offline marketing tactics in person and talking and building relationships that way, that can also be very helpful. In terms of which platform you should use, I mean, obviously, Instagram is probably the leading platform for a lot of producers. It is image centered, so it requires you to share images of the things that you're doing. If you don't have the capacity to do that or you're not inclined to do that just yet, I encourage people to find the platform where your audience is hanging out. Maybe Instagram isn't it. Maybe it's YouTube. Maybe it's TikTok. Maybe it's Threads. Maybe it's Facebook still. Um, or maybe it's something else. Maybe your audience, you've built a Substack and that's where the highest engagement is. Or maybe your audience is on Reddit. Maybe you're on Reddit and you're participating and talking to people on Reddit. I don't really suggest Reddit for an advertising play or driving traffic. Reddit is really great for getting answers to questions and finding intel. But really, the short answer to your question, Dale and Christine, is deciding on where your target customers are. Maybe they're on LinkedIn, for example, but you have to kind of do that research and figure out where they are. And if you are not sure who your target customer is and you haven't really thought about um, who that person is, what that avatar is, how do you speak to them, some of our resources can help you get there, and I'll talk about those resources kind of at the end of this presentation.
That's all we have, Michelle, if you want to continue. And I'm going to share the results to the poll. So if you guys
Fantastic.
want to read those.
Thank you. Those are great questions. So it looks like in the poll, um, no one is currently using AI, and most of you don't plan to, which I love that. And the second question, what is your biggest challenge this year? I can't see those answers. And what do you want to most learn?
You just click on the view details.
I can't see that on my end, but
Oh.
maybe you can share those.
Well,
Um,
this is interesting. This is good to know. Now I know you cannot do the short answers on this. Anyway, so the biggest marketing challenge we had, moving lower demand cuts of beef with high cost pricing, entering the Muslim market, but we've already talked about that. The cost of living is going up, but I don't feel like I could raise my meat prices anymore. I hear you. I feel that same way. And expanding past my current customer base and getting email addresses of customers and confronting sticker shock. But I feel like you talked about that a little bit.
we're going to
And
talk about
helping,
all.
yeah, helping my customers to understand what a pasture raised egg really is slash
Mm.
should be, and then what do you want to most learn out of marketing today, and how to sell less desirable cuts, how to market to Muslims, and knowing how to price to still be competitive but cover your costs, and how to position myself to succeed in competitive marketplace, and what is the best way to be transparent, which you just answered. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I should have
Yeah,
read that ahead of time.
these are all incredible concerns. Obviously, we're not going to get to all of these things today, but we do have some ideas of how we can get to some of these things. So, we we might be able to directly dive into a handful of them in this presentation, but the first thing you can do is tell values-based storytelling. You can tell your unique story. Customers increasingly want to connect with real people and real practices, not generic content, right? This is an exciting opportunity. So, what you want to tell, you want to share your why first and foremost. It's a fallacy to think that people buy what you have. They don't. They buy why you do what you do. So, it's important to make that clear. And framing that is really important. Then you want to share how you do what you do. How do your practices show up on your land, in your product, and in the community? And then share your what. These are your products, your value add. What makes your products unique? Like ground beef is ground beef is ground beef, or chicken is chicken is chicken, right? But what makes your product, like in one of those comments, how do we educate customers about truly pastured eggs, right? An egg is an egg is an egg. But how does your egg, your pastured egg, differ? How is it different from what they might find at the grocery store with all the claim, the pastured egg claims? So, thinking about how you do that, but first sharing your why. Think about ways that you already communicate with consumers. How are you doing that? Are you speaking directly to them at the farmer's market? Are you depending on your website to deliver this information to your customers? Are you say hosting a Facebook or Instagram live to kind of talk about some of these things? Think about how you communicate with your customers, right? It's easy to say, oh, well, just tell your story, but where do you start? Those are some of the ways that you can start. It's also important to maybe integrate some data into your storytelling. A lot of producers overlook data and why that's so important, but giving consumers insights can be valuable into your brand and marketing decisions. So, being able to gather data isn't as hard as you think it is. You can go a step beyond the story. So, for example, if you have a paying customer already, you might be able to get them on the phone, or maybe you can send them an email to a survey, a link, a free survey that you can create with your CRM and ask them just a few questions that they'd be willing to give you feedback on. That can be some of the most valuable information that you can get easily that can help frame your story and frame your messaging. It ultimately, if you can figure out how to enhance your storytelling with specific data, you might really start to change how consumers find you, how consumers really like trust you and lock in on your brand. So we talked about sticker shock, right? Um, some of the messaging strategies when you start to think about economic impact framing is you can say things like your purchase keeps 3 families employed, or our processor serves 14 regional farms, or whatever the number is. But when you include relevant data, you show the entire ecosystem, because oftentimes consumers, especially smart consumers, they want to know beyond your farm what's the impact. And when you can show that full ecosystem, that can really make an impact. You can also own your online real estate. So having first-party data control is really important in today's market. So I'm going to talk about it in terms of digital real estate. So things like your website, right? We consider that in marketing. That's your URL is your address, your website is your house, right? If you're thinking about it in terms of real estate, you need to own those things. Third party, like using third parties to deliver your messaging or to activate people to take action. Some of those things obviously are being impacted by AI and search engine optimization. It's getting harder and harder for small brands to compete on that level. But owning your real estate is something that you own that you can directly impact. So things like your email list and building a loyal community and owning your direct online marketplaces will help give you an advantage where you can directly and meaningfully engage with your subscribers or your consumers and deepen the trust with them. So privacy regulations are also tightening, so when you build like your own consumer channels, like I said, email, loyalty communities, and direct e-commerce, you'll have an advantage over other brands that are reliant on third-party platforms or paid discovery. So investing in direct engagement strategies that nurture trust and encourage long-term and repeat purchases can be great. So owning your turf, growing your email list with authentic and personalized engagements. So maybe it's building an email series. So for the person potentially building a Muslim community and getting your meat into Muslim communities, if you have an email list or you're building an email list of this specific avatar, then you can be able to communicate with them in a way that's important to them because you know what their pain points are. You know that they might want halal meat. You know what the holidays are. You may be able to do promotions during those moments. But having that list of your target customers on your email list will help create that, on-demand purchasing or on-demand engagement. And you can use your website as a traffic generator. So, for example, maybe you have a couple of blog posts that really talk about halal meat, or, maybe you're talking about pastured eggs and why they're different. And those blog posts can link directly to a sales page or landing page. If you don't have an online platform and you're using offline marketing, you can invest in direct engagement strategies like mailers. You can do small mailers in your community. The USPS, United States Postal Service, has a built-in program where you can purchase addresses and you can send postcards for maybe not pennies on the dollar, but you know, might cost you 25 cents, 40 cents per postcard in your direct community. And that might be a great way to get local sales. You can also do that at the farmer's market. You can have a card that you give away, or if you're shipping products, you can have a postcard that you print in your shipped products. There's so many ways to own your turf and really take charge of your communication. You can compete. There's a lot of competition out there, but transparency equals competitive advantage. So the opportunity is Consumers might pay more when they know who raised the animal and how. So give consumers the ability to ask questions about your farm, about your practices, and give them clear sourcing information. Help them make that connection and build confidence with you, so that your product matches your story. When trust goes up, price sensitivity goes down. So this isn't necessarily talking about that people have more money to spend. They may not have more money to spend. But if you know the concerns of your consumer and you're being transparent, you're building trust, people may be able to say, you know what, I think this is worth it. I'm going to allocate some money this month to spend with this producer and purchase these $12 a dozen eggs or this $40 chicken, because it really means something to me. Maybe I can't do it every week, but I can do it once a month, and I'm going to do that. So when trust goes up, price sensitivity goes down. You can provide the experience and compare taste, not just ethics. So, for example, I've heard of small producers doing pop-ups or collaborating with restaurants where they could do a pop-up, a tasting pop-up, and actually sample their meat somewhere. Or you can offer cooking education or recipes that are specific to your product and resources that really help tell the story of your brand. You can highlight artisanal skills, right, from your butcher or chef that you might be working with, or maybe your own butchery or chef skills. But when you elevate the meat from commodity to craft, that can be really important to your target customer as well. You can emphasize eating better. We all know that the government has now changed the food pyramid, is prioritizing protein. You know, I don't particularly believe in removing the animal from the food. And when you say protein, you're talking about a lot of things. And that might be an advantage in the way that you kind of frame your messaging, right? You are connecting the animal and the land and the food together. So you're not calling it protein, you're actually calling it meat. You're calling it what it is. You're calling it lamb, you're calling it chicken, you're calling it beef or pork. For a growing segment of consumers, paying a premium for local meat is framed as a health investment, not a luxury purchase. That might be an angle that you can bring into your messaging if that's one of your unique selling propositions. This driver is especially strong among parents and families or athletes if that's your target customer. Consumers might be reducing overall meat intake, but they're increasing quality. So they're searching for better, more nutrient dense products. And people are definitely moving away from ultra processed foods. So the messaging strategy is soil plus animal equals nutrient integrity. Healthy soil supports healthy forage supports healthy animals, and healthy animals produce nourishing meat. I would recommend, highly recommend, avoid debating exact omega-3 or omega-6 percentages. Instead, reinforce integrity. Consumers respond to systems thinking. So, those are some of the strategies that are tangible, easily implementable, and things that you can consider for the marketing threats and opportunities for 2026. I want to just kind of wrap this up by highlighting some of our resources at the Good Meat Project. We have quite a few. Our programs and our resources. So we have 3 programs, our Good Meat Breakdown, which is our consumer-facing program, our Farm In program, which is our Farmer and Rancher Marketing Innovation Network that is largely focused on farmers and ranchers, and we have our Bacon program, which is our Butcher and Chef's Opportunity Work. All of our resources are free to download right now, and these are some of them. So our lowdowns, you can watch previous lowdowns on our YouTube channel, or you can join our lowdowns and sign up for our lowdowns that are coming up in 2026, where we'll talk about more of these issues. You can download our bulk buying toolkits or our our beef preparation sheets. We've got lamb and goat sheets that you can download and customize and share with consumers. You can read a snapshot. So we've done hundreds of snapshots profiling farmers and ranchers, butchers and chefs, and even eaters, talking to them about what good meat means to them and their practices, their processes, what is important to them, and you can learn from them. You can also list your business on our Good Meat Finder. That is one of our new initiatives. We have almost 300 businesses listed there. What makes it unique is it's not just a directory for farmers and ranchers, but it's also a directory for butchers, retailers, and chefs. So it really is connecting people across the meat value chain, helping consumers find meat based on their values. They can search with specific values or certifications, and it really is a unique tool, and you can get listed on there for free. You can also attend a workshop. We do host in-person workshops, but we also have virtual workshops like these, so you can attend those. You can also join the Good Meat Switchboard, where you can ask for something or offer something on there, and it is free for you to be there. It's a community of practice, and it is really quite an active community there. You can attend a live dining event. This year, we're doing 2 dining events with 2 farms here in the Pacific Northwest called Every Cut Matters, where we're featuring nose to tail eating and really bringing butchery, farming, and eaters together in one place to talk about the wonderful connectivity and waste reduction benefits and nutritional benefits of eating and reviving nose to tail eating. And you can also sign up and attend one of our farm marketing boot camps. We're launching these boot camps in April, and so more on that. If you have any questions, you can email us at programs@goodmeatproject.org. And that's where I will end my talking and start answering your questions. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Michele. You were saying a lot of the things you were saying really resonated with me, and I'm really happy to have you. We're going to go ahead and give everybody, allow Michele to take a drink, and I
Yes.
am going, yeah, and everybody formulate your questions. Please put them in the Q&A. There's not as many people, so if it happens to be that you put it in the chat, that's fine. We can sort of sort through it. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put up my poll really quick for our typical end of webinar poll. It really does help us a lot if you guys answer these questions, because I'm able to use this data when I'm asking for funding and all of that kind of good stuff. All right, so Aubrey is actually going to help me with these questions, but I can ask the first one, Aubrey, if you want to take over from there. And Aubrey is my Catherine today, so this is fantastic.
We'll just call you Catherine.
Yeah, we'll just call you Catherine. No, we won't. We'll
Perfect.
call you Aubrey.
Yeah.
So Megan asks, Michele, how do you identify value-added processes to work with and develop stable relationships to generate value-added products? They do not have the infrastructure to make their own, so they have to go to a
Okay.
processor.
Megan, I would love for you to, is Megan able to unmute and
No,
no?
no.
Okay. How do you
She,
identify value-added processors to work with and develop stable relationships to generate value-added products? So for me, that sounds like this is a relationship between a processor and creating value-added products. I need a little bit more context.
well, Megan, if you want to go ahead and just add that into the Q&A, we'll get to it when we get there. Does that sound good? And
Yeah,
we'll
if
move to, oh, why am I asking? She can't respond to me.
oh
Why am
no.
I asking
And
her?
I will
Sorry.
give a little plug too. We have not yet announced our lowdown webinars, but we a little sneak peek. We will have one with the processor on this topic. So keep an eye on the Good Meat Project newsletter,
Yeah.
and we'll be addressing this.
I just want a little more context so that I can answer it appropriately.
Okay. Megan,
We'll come
that's your
back to you.
task.
We'll come back to that.
Put it in the Q&A and we'll get there. Okay, Carissa asks, I wanted to add as a challenge, my emails, and I actually feel you on this, Carissa, my emails are ending up in promotions and customers are not seeing them. She has
Mm.
a robust email list and it's always been a solid marketing tool for her. And I have actually seen that with MailChimp happening more recently. And it's, yeah, I would love to know the answer to this too. Thank you, Carissa, for asking that.
That is such a great question. It is kind of a long answer to that, but I'm going to try and condense it because CRMs, each CRM has different features, and deliverability is a feature in a CRM that is high for me. I like to look at the deliverability of CRMs, and not all CRMs are equal in that way. In fact, a lot of CRMs do exactly what you're, bringing up as an issue and a challenge, is they are funneling emails automatically, especially Google, is funneling emails into promotions as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to directly into the inbox. And so people aren't seeing it, they're not looking for it, it's not to say that it's ending up in spam, but people aren't seeing it because it's in the promotions tab. So one of the ways, if you're already on a CRM that's doing this, one of the strategies that you can use in marketing is to kind of reset with your audience and your subscribers. Have have a short email that you can send to your entire list with a really catchy headline that says, "Are you getting my emails?" Or something like, uh, "You missed this exciting thing." It should be something really punchy that gets them to open the email, because that's what you're looking for, is you're looking for opens, and then secondarily you're looking for conversions. You're asking people to take action and do something in your email. But if you've never set the tone from the beginning with that very first email that you send to someone who subscribes to your email list, and that email should say, "Hi, thanks for signing up for my email list. I'm so glad that you're here. Here's what you can expect from me." Make sure that you white list, they call it white list, or you can say add to your contacts, add my email list to your contacts list, right? Another way you can go about that, instead of saying that, or you can say in addition to, "Hey, I've sent you this really cool thing, a PDF download, a video of us doing this thing. Check your email," because you want to train your audience and your subscribers to expect your emails, which is
Mm-hmm.
why consistency matters. If you're sending out an email once a month, send it out once a month. If you're doing it once a week, send it out once a week. You know, you should have an email marketing plan. If you don't, make sure that you download the link or sign up for our Marketing Fundamentals course for producers that really explains how you set that up and what you have to do first. You have to train people to open your emails. If you know you have an inbox full of emails that maybe you signed up for, maybe you didn't. A lot of those emails get lost in the sauce. That's everybody in the world. But what makes someone open your emails? A subject line that is directly tied to a problem that they're trying to solve, right? If you know who you're talking to and you know who that target audience is, then you know what their pain points are. You can say to them, "Oh my gosh, convenience. It is, the devil." I would open that email. And you can talk about how slow food is really the way you're doing business and why that's important to your community and why convenience might not be so convenient if they're purchasing from you, right? So, but it's the planning. I know some of this can sound overwhelming, like, "Oh, I have to do all these things and I have to pasture my animals and I got to move animals and I got to feed them and I got to." Yes, I understand. It is a lot. But there is a foundation that you have to lay if you want to get the outcomes that you expect. And with email, because most people are checking their email more than once a day, you want to be one of those emails that they're opening. So you have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy for it. How are you using your email list? Are you just using it to talk about promotions, or are you using it to build relationships? If you're building it to, if you're using it to build relationships, that's a different pace. That's a different tone. That's a different voice that you're using,
Mhm.
right? It's a different frequency. It's a different, you're sharing things of value and you're building trust with people. And you're not just saying, "Hey, buy my stuff right now." So that's how I would answer that question. I know that was a little long-winded.
No, that was really good stuff. And we actually, and I will share it in the follow-up email.
Yeah.
We,
And a
Corinne,
CRM is a consumer relationship management platform. That is a third-party platform. I apologize for the acronyms, but that is the MailChimp, the Constant Contact, the you name it. That's what a
yeah,
CRM is.
because you're not allowed to send through your personal email, your farm email, any kind of solicitations. It has to
You
go,
are
there has to
not.
be an opt-out
There has to be
ability,
by
right?
law.
Okay,
Yes.
yes. And I'll do a plug for a new for our consistency with a newsletter. So I used to never do a newsletter. I do it like once a month or once every 2 months, whenever I felt like it, or like once a year sometimes. Because I'm just like, that's such a pain. I don't want to do that. And then COVID hit, and I had to because that's the only way. Because our market was closed for a while, so I started doing it on a weekly basis, and I've been doing it every single week for the last 6 years. And it has made a huge difference. And I actually enjoy writing it now. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to think I wasn't a writer, and it turns out I can write. It's
Mm-hmm.
great. All right, Aubrey, do you want Megan actually added some more information? Do you want to cover that one?
Yeah, I'll cover that. So, Megan says this is some context for you, Michelle. Our slaughterhouse and meat cutter does not value add. We would like to make sausages, hot dogs, rendered tallow, etc. So, need a retail food license processor to make those products for us. We have one who needs funding to start up locally, but have an immediate need and are trying to find that middleman in the meantime.
Mm. Talk about processing bottlenecks.
Mhm.
I feel you 100%. There are so many. Let me ask a follow-up question. Okay, since I can't talk to you directly, Megan, here's what I would say. I don't know where you are in the world, what region you're in. That would be helpful in Colorado. Okay, great. Um, there's a lot happening in Colorado in meat. Right now. So we could probably share some Colorado resources with you directly. If you want to share your email or you want to email us at programs@goodmeatproject.org, we are very connected to the community in Colorado, specifically on the local meat, small meat um, framework and opportunities there.
Yeah.
What I would say to this question right now, without you being able to build infrastructure for that, and without maybe a local nearby USDA certified um, value add processor that could do those things for you, there may be an opportunity to do some of those things, say, at an intermediary. So if there is a food hub near you where you could use a certified kitchen. Now, that's a whole other can of worms, right? Because you need to have a staff member, you need to have a food license to do that in the state, like food handling license. You need to make that make sure that the facility has been inspected, by the food inspection. So there's still a lot of um, pieces there. You may also be able to partner with a chef, right? And produce some of these things at a restaurant as a value add and split the profits, right? Sell them through, maybe make them together, sell them through at the restaurant or a food truck or something like that. I'm just talking off the top of my head, trying to give you some ideas for distribution pathways for these, um, value added products, since you have an immediate need and you're trying to find a middle person right in the meantime. Those might be ways you can contact caterers. A lot of time caterers might have a need to buy product, meat products that are affordable, and make meatballs, make sausages, make bone broth, that they can mark up on the, you know, prepared food side. And sometimes caterers or sandwich shops, or maybe there are other folks in the community where you are, that you can, instead of having to produce the products yourself, you can maybe sell them. I don't know, there may be some laws and regulations that prohibit you from selling them wholesale, but you may be able to, yeah. I think it's very nuanced, and I don't want to give you bad information. Those are just some things off the top of my head that you might want to look into, um, without me having more context. I'm gonna end there. I hope that was helpful, though. It's very complicated and very nuanced. Yeah.
So
And I'll
Megan
just
says,
add, Megan, please feel free to email us at, thank you, Samantha. You just dropped our email, programs@goodmeatproject.org. We also have a switchboard, which is a community forum specifically just for
Yeah.
folks who are in the humane, regenerative farming, retail, restaurant business. And so that's a great place to post an issue like this and see if there's anyone who has ideas or connections to
Yeah.
processors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we're going to do one more question from Yusuf. How can humane livestock producers strategically communicate their why while leveraging direct consumer engagement and consumer data to strengthen trust and market positioning?
Well, that's a loaded question. That's a lot, Youssef. We go through a lot of that in our marketing fundamentals course for producers. Again, that is a pre-recorded kind of do it at your own pace style education resource that we have. We'll likely be doing some boot camps about that this year, so stay tuned. Make sure that you're on our newsletter, so that you hear about that. Of course, if you're already connected to FACT, hopefully FACT will share those resources with you as well when they are emerging.
Absolutely.
How can you do that? You just start talking about your why. Think about your framing. Think about who you're talking to. You know, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you doing one of the hardest jobs in the world? Why? If you can answer that for yourself, then you can certainly start sharing that with your audience. You can start sharing it in pictures or in texts, like not text, but like in your storytelling if you're doing it on the internet, right? You can write a blog post about it. You can record an audio. You can share some pictures if you're on social media. You can create a video about it. You can type it in your newsletter. You can, have a series, the 3 reasons why I'm doing the hardest job in the world.
Oh, I love that. That's
You know,
fantastic.
there's a subject line for you.
That's
That one,
perfect.
that's your freebie. You can write a series of 3 emails, and that can be your first email or even an email reset. If you already have an email list, start telling your why, your story, right? And make sure that you're tracking your data, your opens, and always, always, always include one call to action in your emails. You want to give people who are opening your emails something to do, right?
Mhm.
So if you're writing a short email on the first reason why you're doing the hardest job on the planet, it's because you love it and you've written a blog post about it, or you've recorded a short video about that. In your newsletter, in that email, that first email, you just give a paragraph of why and then say, I've recorded this longer video. Watch it here. Sign off. That's it. You've given them something to do. Now you're bouncing them around your universe. You're creating traffic and sending them to your online real estate. right? This is the process. You're capturing their attention. You're saying, hey, I hear you. Here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Go check this thing out. Then you've sent them to your video. When they're watching your video, then, or your blog, if they're reading your blog post, then what do? At the end of your blog post, hey, sign up for my newsletter, or they probably got there from your newsletter, or maybe it's, you know, check out this resource from the Good Meat Project about how much freezer space you need if you order a whole share from me.
Oh, this is great.
Okay,
I can
I got
see
to stop
waiting.
there.
Yeah,
We're out
you
of
have to
time.
stop there. We're out of time, and you've got something else you have to do.
I
So,
do.
yeah, so we definitely have to talk about some more webinars. You're just like hitting a lot of different things. Okay, so feel free to go, Michele. I know you have to go. So a few housekeeping items to share before we sign off today. A recording of this webinar and slides will be available within the next few days. These documents will be archived on our website, and I will email them to you. And I will be back next week with Are You Ready to Host a Farm Stay? And I'll send links to this and all of our upcoming webinars, which are dwindling because we're coming to the end of our season, and other opportunities for farmers and ranchers in that same follow-up email. So I would like to thank you, Michele. This was brilliant. You've got me all excited. I'm going to
I'm glad.
I'm going to reconnect with my customers and my email people, and yeah, and please send all the links to the things you've been talking about, and I will share those in the follow-up email. And always tell me when you've got something new starting and coming up, because I will absolutely share it with FACT as a whole.
We will.
All
We're
right. Thank you
delighted.
so
Thank you
much.
so much, everybody.
Bye bye for now.
Bye.